Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back to another episode of The Pulse, your weekly dose of gaming news and updates. This week, we've got a heavy lineup of game updates. First, we'll talk about Pokemon TCG developers cracking down on players abusing the game to trade real money. We've got some exciting news for those of you looking forward to Gears of War E-Day, and Rise of the Ronin's PC port has been announced. We've got updates on Mass Effect 5 that we'd like to share, and last but not least, we'll be covering Xbox's position on PS5 releases. So without wasting any more time, let's get to it. Let's start this off with the Pokemon TCG Pocket game. The developers will be cracking down on players who have been tampering with the in-game data to trade real-life currency with other players. Originally spotted by Eurogamer, this was an in-game notice posted to all players warning them that if this continues, players will be faced with account suspensions and other actions. If you're a Pokemon TCG Pocket player, you've probably seen this message sent by the team. Now, that's not the only news with this game. Trading launched a few days after the crackdown on the terms of service violations. The trading system allows players to trade cards, but of course it's 2025 and everyone is unhappy about something. Issue here that seems to be negatively impacting players is the long list of restrictions when it comes to trading. For example, you can only trade 1, 2, 3, or 4 diamond rarity cards, and only one trade can be done at a time. This significantly slows down trading. You also have the limitation on who you can trade with. This means you can only trade with friends on your friends list only. Now, some of these restrictions ultimately keep you on the game longer and drag out simple actions a little further. After all, it's about who's actively playing that matters. One of the biggest drawbacks is a new system that requires trade stamina, where you have to spend yet another currency to do something as mundane as trading cards. The list goes on and on and on. Obviously, with such a negative backlash, the developers came out and agreed that maybe all these restrictions is doing more harm than good. Do you guys remember last year's Xbox Showcase? It was pretty awesome with some huge announcements and new exclusive titles for Xbox. For me, Gears of War E-Day was one of my favorite announcements. If you got stupid hype for Gears, then you'll be happy to hear People Can Fly or PCF will be joining the coalition as a co-development partner for E-Day. This is huge news since PCF co-developed Gears 1 through 3 and developed Judgment. In a brief statement from PCF CEO, they say, "Returning to collaborate on the next chapter of this legendary saga is both a privilege and an exciting opportunity to build upon the intense, visceral action and rich storytelling that fans have come to love. We are deeply grateful for our partners' trust and support on this journey." And Mike Crump, the Coalition studio head, also reflected similar sentiment, saying, "Gears of War E-Day is not just our next major game. It's a return to what makes Gears of War games special and authentic. We're pleased to be partnering with the talented folks at People Can Fly, who have been a part of our franchise legacy for so long." From the looks of it, E-Day will take place before Gears 1. It would be fitting to have the original co-developer joining the ranks to dig deeper into Gears lore. In Gears lore, E-Day is the shortened name for Emergence Day, the day the main antagonists coordinate a full-scale takeover of the planet Serra. Gears of War 1 starts 14 days after E-Day, so I'd like to guess that Gears of War E-Day will take place a few days prior leading up to E-Day, and the first 14 days of full-scale war. We get to see some of our favorite characters again too, like Coltrane, Marcus, Damon, and Dom. I know it's going to be a struggle waiting for this game. We'll be posting more news about E-Day when it comes out. Alright, and here's a quick game update. Rise of the Ronin will be porting over to PC on March 11th, 2025. Something to take note of is the PC port will be coming with a decent list of PC exclusives. This content won't be available in the PS5 or PS5 Pro versions, so be sure to check it out. Check on screen for some information on that. There will also be some pre-order goodies. Here's a list of those. The game will be up on Steam with no word of it showing up on the Epic Games Store. With a top critic rating of 77 out of 100, this will be a new entry in the backlog of games to check out this year. Have you guys played Rise of the Ronin? What are your thoughts on the game? Earlier last week, BioWare reportedly had fewer than 100 employees remaining after a round of layoffs. This comes as Dragon Age: The Veilguard failed to meet the studio's expectations. Now, there is new news that BioWare has shifted their focus to their only game, Mass Effect 5. EA is in the middle of restructuring BioWare, so the reported number of less than 100 employees sounds about right. Now, it's no news, BioWare has been taking L's since Anthem, and I think EA is starting to step in and make some aggressive changes. It was reported by IGN and Bloomberg that EA's restructuring of BioWare puts the studio in a spot to only focus on one single game, aka Mass Effect. Now, we're typically used to hearing about AAA studios having hundreds of staff working on IPs at once, but this isn't really something new. Bloomberg further reported that when Dragon Age Veilguard hit peak development, BioWare had roughly 200 people working on it. So at this point, you might be wondering, if Veilguard failed to meet expectations with 200 people, isn't Mass Effect dead on arrival? This is something that we're also questioning, and we'll have to see what happens moving forward. I feel like every time I do the Pulse, Ubisoft makes their way into the news. Unfortunately, it's never good news. Ubisoft has announced their UK-based Leamington studio will be closing. This will put about 185 people out of a job in the UK. But there's more. The Ubisoft, Dusseldorf, Stockholm, and Newcastle offices will be downsized. These studios were in charge of some of Ubisoft's massive titles like Star Wars Outlaws, Anno, The Division, and Skull and Bones. These layoffs are part of Ubisoft's restructuring following disappointing game launches like Outlaws and X Defiant. It's unfortunate that the news comes at the start of the year. Earlier this month, Ubisoft mentioned that they are in a reshaping phase, which means there's going to be a lot more moves, closures, and layoffs. Alright, and the last bit of news. Xbox is shaping up to release some huge Xbox games on PS5. A year or so ago, Xbox announced there were 4 of its games going multi-platform. There was never mention of what games were going to be released on what platform. Obviously, when they talked about multi-platform, they were talking about the PS5. Since that initial announcement, it's been revealed that Doom: The Dark Ages, Ninja Gaiden 4, and Indiana Jones would be going to the PS5. But what about that 4th game? Well, on January 30th, Forza announced that they will be launching a PS5 version of their game. The PS5 version won't have anything removed from it. Better yet, it'll have every single pack that was released for the Xbox and the PC, which will also be featured on the PS5 version. This is pretty huge news if you think about it. Forza has been a long-running first-party title for Xbox since, forever. And to add to that, Phil Spencer recently was pretty vague on what exclusives were going to what platforms, but lately he's been kind of leaning into the Xbox games are for everyone everywhere. In an interview on Gamertag Radio, Spencer stated, "We love our platform and our hardware, but we're not going to put walls up where people can't engage with the great games and the studios that make them. Whether it's cloud, whether it's PC, whether it's handheld, whether it's phone, whether it's PlayStation, not just PlayStation, even Nintendo. So expect our games absolutely to show up in more and more places." There's also a lot of talk of games lined up for the Switch too. So it's looking like it's going to be a huge year for Xbox games. We'll just have to see what else is coming out. And that's going to wrap up the Pulse for this week. If you found this information in this video useful and informative, hit that like button on your way out. If you want more gaming industry news and updates, hit that subscribe button to stay updated. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week on the Pulse. See ya.